Have you ever been judged by your appearance rather than your character? Today's story is about Marcus Thompson, a brilliant entrepreneur who built a hotel empire from nothing, only to face the very prejudice his success should have shielded him from. But what happens next will change not just one person's perspective, but an entire company's culture. The camera pans across the gleaming facade of the Grand Meridian Hotel, the flagship property of Thompson Hospitality Group, 60 stories of architectural brilliance dominating the Chicago skyline, its glass exterior reflecting clouds and sunlight in equal measure. This is the crown jewel of Marcus Thompson's empire, a testament to his 20 years of relentless work and vision. Marcus sits in the back of his town car, scrolling through quarterly reports on his tablet. At 45, he carries himself with the quiet confidence of someone who has overcome every obstacle placed in his path. His tailored navy suit contrasts with his casual demeanor as he chats with his driver, Jerome, who has been with him since the beginning. "Strange coming back this way, isn't it, Jerome?" Marcus says, gazing up at the hotel. Jerome meets his eyes in the rearview mirror. "Full circle, Mr. Thompson. Your father would be proud." Marcus nods, a familiar weight settling on his shoulders at the mention of his late father, whose small bed and breakfast had been the inspiration for everything that followed. The neighborhood they're driving through now, Bronzeville, is where Marcus grew up, where he watched his parents work themselves to exhaustion to give him opportunities they never had. "I've got meetings back to back until the charity gala tomorrow," Marcus says. "And the remodeling team needs decisions on the West Wing. Thought it would be easier to stay on site for a couple of days." What Marcus doesn't mention is his real reason for staying at his own hotel unannounced. There have been complaints, small things, inconsistencies in service that wouldn't register on most guests' radars, but that Marcus, with his obsessive attention to detail, that has noticed in the online reviews. As the CEO of a company that prides itself on impeccable customer service, he needs to see things through the eyes of a guest. "Incognito boss mode?" Jerome asks with a knowing smile. "Something like that," Marcus replies. "Sometimes you need to see things from a different perspective." The car pulls up to the hotel entrance. Unlike his usual visits, there's no management team waiting to greet him, no red carpet, no preferential treatment. Just the standard doorman who opens the car door with practiced efficiency. "Welcome to the Grand Meridian, sir," the young man says brightly, not recognizing the owner of not just this hotel, but the entire global chain. Marcus steps out, straightens his tie, and nods his thanks. With nothing but a weekend bag in hand, he walks through the revolving doors and into the opulent lobby of the hotel he designed down to the last detail. What happens in the next 24 hours will test not just Marcus's patience, but his entire philosophy about people, second chances, and what it truly means to lead. The Grand Meridian's lobby stretches before Marcus like a familiar dream, soaring ceilings with crystal chandeliers, marble floors with intricate inlays reflecting the carefully designed lighting. The scent of fresh flowers from the massive central arrangement mingles with the subtle signature fragrance that all his hotels use. Everything is exactly as it should be, which only heightens his curiosity about those customer service discrepancies. Marcus approaches the reception desk, where 3 employees in crisp uniforms assist other guests. He waits his turn, observing their interactions, the efficiency of their movements, the warmth of their smiles. This is what built his reputation, this attention to the human element of hospitality. But finally, he steps up to the desk where a young woman, her name tag reading Alison, greets him with a professional smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. "Good afternoon, welcome to the Grand Meridian. How may I assist you today?" Her voice has the rehearsed quality of someone who has said these exact words hundreds of times. "I'd like to check in, please. I have a reservation for 2 nights, Marcus says pleasantly. "Of course, sir." "May I have your name?" Alison's fingers hover over her keyboard. "Marcus Thompson." She types quickly, her eyes scanning the screen. A slight furrow appears between her brows. "I'm sorry, I don't see a reservation under that name. Could it be under a different name, perhaps?" Marcus feels a flicker of annoyance. He had his assistant make the reservation personally. It should be there. Thompson, Marcus. For 2 nights, starting today. Alison's typing becomes more aggressive, as if she could force his name to appear through sheer determination. I'm checking all possible spelling, sir, but I'm not finding anything. A note of skepticism enters her voice. Are you certain you have a reservation at this hotel? Perhaps it's at one of our competitor properties. The suggestion that he might be confused about which hotel he booked irritates Marcus, but he keeps his expression neutral. I'm certain. Could you check again, please? Alison sighs, barely concealing her impatience. Sir, I've checked thoroughly. There is no reservation under Marcus Thompson. Her eyes flick over his weekend bag, his casual posture, taking in details and making calculations that Marcus can read in her expression. Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding, she continues, her tone shifting subtly. The Grand Meridian is a luxury property, and our rooms start at $500 per night. We do have availability, but I want to make sure you're aware of our rates before we proceed. The implication hangs in the air between them. Marcus feels a familiar tightness in his chest, the same feeling he experienced decades ago when shopkeepers would follow him around their stores, when maitre d's would claim no reservations were available despite empty tables, when real estate agents would mysteriously have no properties to show him in certain neighborhoods. Marcus straightens his shoulders, his expression hardening almost imperceptibly. I'm well aware of the rates, thank you. If there's no reservation, I'd like to book a suite for 2 nights. Alison's smile becomes tight. I'll need to see a credit card and ID'd, please. Marcus reaches for his wallet and slides his black American Express card and driver's license across the counter. Alison takes them, and as she glances at the ID, a flash of something recognition, confusion, alarm crosses her face. One moment, please, Mr. Thompson. Her entire demeanor has changed. She picks up a phone and turns away slightly, speaking in low tones. Marcus waits, standing perfectly still, his face a careful mask of neutrality, even as he catalogues every detail of this interaction. This is precisely why he chose to come incognito to experience his hotel as any guest would, to see the gaps between the service his company promises and what it actually delivers. Moments later, a door behind the reception desk opens, and a man in an impeccably tailored suit hurries out. Marcus recognizes David Chen, the hotel manager, a valued employee who has been with the company for nearly a decade. But David's face is a portrait of controlled panic. Mr. Thompson, I had no idea you were coming today. Please accept our sincerest apologies for the confusion. He shoots a withering look at Alison, whose face has drained of color as realization dawns. Mr. Thompson, Alison stammers, I didn't realize that I owned this hotel. Marcus finishes for her, his voice level. That's rather the point. I shouldn't need to be recognized to receive the standard of service we promise to all our guests. The lobby seems to have gone quiet, though Marcus knows it's just his focus narrowing to this moment, this interaction that represents everything he's been trying to address in his company. David, he says, turning to the manager, I'd like to continue with my check-in. The standard procedure, please. We can discuss this situation tomorrow. David nods, understanding immediately. Of course, Mr. Thompson. Alison will complete your check-in. His glance at Alison communicates volumes. Alison, now visibly trembling, takes back Marcus's credit card and ID. Yes, sir. Right away, Mr. Thompson. As she processes his information with newfound efficiency, Marcus contemplates what just happened and what it reveals about the culture within his own establishment. This moment, uncomfortable as it is, might be exactly what he needed to find. As Alison completes his check-in with painstaking attention to detail, but Marcus reflects on the journey that brought him here. Born to working-class parents in Southside Chicago, he grew up watching his father manage a small bed and breakfast and his mother keep the books. The Bluebird Inn wasn't fancy, just 12 rooms in a converted Victorian house, but his parents ran it with pride and dedication that left an indelible mark on young Marcus. Your room key, Mr. Thompson, Alison says, her voice small as she hands him an envelope. Suite 4501, our premium corner suite. Thank you, Alison, Marcus responds, deliberately using her name. He takes the key and his documentation, then pauses. How long have you been with Grand Meridian? The question seems to surprise her. 6 months, sir. Marcus nods. And do you enjoy working here? Her eyes dart briefly to David, who stands a respectful distance away, then back to Marcus. Yes, sir. Very much. Good. I'm glad to hear it. With that, Marcus turns and walks toward the elevators, aware of the whispered conversation erupting behind him. In the privacy of the elevator, Marcus exhales slowly. 6 months. Not long enough to be fully immersed in the company culture, but long enough to have absorbed certain attitudes. He wonders what messages spoken and unspoken she's received during her training and daily work. The elevator doors open directly into Suite 4501, one of his favorite designs in the building. Floor-to-ceiling windows offer a panoramic view of Lake Michigan and the Chicago skyline. The furnishings are modern yet comfortable, the color palette warm and inviting. Everything is as it should be: immaculate, luxurious, thoughtful. Marcus sets down his bag and walks to the windows, gazing out at the city he loves. His mind drifts back to his father, Calvin Thompson, and the lessons he imparted. Son. Oh. Calvin had told him once, when Marcus came home furious after being followed by security in an upscale department store, "You'll face this your whole life. You can let it embitter you, or you can use it as fuel. But remember, this changing minds is harder than building buildings. And twice as important. Than building buildings and twice as important." Those words had shaped Marcus's approach to business and life. After college and business school, he'd worked for several major hotel chains, absorbing everything he could about the industry. When he finally launched Thompson Hospitality Group 15 years ago, he'd made diversity and inclusion central to his business model, not just as buzzwords but as foundational principles. His phone rings, interrupting his thoughts. It's Regina Washington, his COIO and longtime friend. "So you checked in?" Regina asks without preamble. "David just called me in a panic." Marcus smiles despite himself. News travels fast. "What did you expect? You're the big boss showing up unannounced." Of course they're freaking out. Regina's tone is amused but curious. "What happened?" David was being rather vague. "I got profiled at my own hotel, Regina." Marcus keeps his voice even, factual. "The receptionist didn't believe I had a reservation, then strongly implied I couldn't afford to stay here." Regina's sharp intake of breath is audible. "Das. Was. Marcus." "That's exactly why I'm doing this," Marcus interrupts. "We've had complaints about inconsistent service. I needed to see for myself." "And you got more than you bargained for," Regina says quietly. "What are you going to do about the receptionist?" "David's probably drafting her termination paperwork as we speak." Marcus moves away from the window, pacing the spacious living area of the suite. "I haven't decided yet. Firing her feels reactive, not strategic." "Marcus, she disrespected the owner of the company to his face." "She disrespected a guest," he corrects. "She had no idea who I was, and that's the point. What matters is how she treats people when she doesn't know they're important." There's a pause on the line as Regina considers this. "So what's your plan?" Marcus stops pacing, his decision crystallizing. "I need to understand why this happened. Is it just this one employee? Is it something in our training? Is it the culture we've created? Firing her might feel satisfying, but it won't solve the underlying problem." "You're thinking bigger picture," Regina says, approval in her voice. "Always am. That's why you keep me around," Marcus replies with a small smile. "I'm going to use this situation as an opportunity. But tomorrow, I want to meet with the department heads, and I want Alison there too." Bold move. She might quit before then out of sheer mortification. Then I need to make sure she doesn't. "Can you reach out to David? Tell him I don't want any disciplinary action taken until I've had a chance to address this personally." "Consider it done," Regina says. "And Marcus? For what it's worth, I'm sorry that happened to you. In your own hotel, of all places. Marcus looks back out at the Chicago skyline, at the city that both raised him and sometimes rejected him. Don't be sorry. Be determined. We built this company to be different. If we're falling short, I need to know why. After ending the call, Marcus unpacks his bag methodically, laying out his clothes for tomorrow's meetings. His mind is already forming a plan not just to address this single incident, but to use it as a catalyst for the kind of systemic examination that might prevent similar situations in the future. As night falls over Chicago, casting the suite in shadows and city lights, Marcus stands at the window once more. But in the reflection of the glass, he sees not just himself but the legacy of his father, the dreams of his parents, and the responsibility he bears as someone who has the power to effect change. Tomorrow will be interesting indeed. The conference room on the hotel's top floor buzzes with nervous energy. Department heads sit around the polished mahogany table, their usual camaraderie subdued by uncertainty. David Chen, the hotel manager, continuously checks his watch and the door, his anxiety palpable. When Marcus enters precisely at 9 a.m., everyone rises. He gestures for them to sit, taking his place at the head of the table. Regina Washington follows, elegant and composed as always, taking the seat to his right. "Good morning," Marcus begins, his voice measured. "Thank you all for adjusting your schedules on such short notice. Before we begin, we're waiting for one more person." As if on cue, there's a tentative knock at the door. David jumps up to open it, revealing Alison standing in the hallway. She looks as though she hasn't slept, her uniform impeccable, but her eyes revealing her fear. "Alison, please join us," Marcus says, indicating an empty chair directly across from him. Whispers circulate around the table as she takes her seat, eyes downcast. The senior staff exchange glances, clearly surprised by her presence. "I suspect many of you have heard about what happened at check-in yesterday," Marcus begins, his gaze sweeping the room. "Rather than relying on gossip, I want to address it directly. Yesterday, why? I experienced what many of our guests might experience, being judged based on appearances rather than being treated with the universal respect and service excellence that is supposed to be our hallmark." Alison's face flushes deep red, her eyes still fixed on the table. "I'm not here to shame anyone," Marcus continues. "I'm here to understand. Because what happened yesterday isn't just about one interaction, it's a symptom of something larger." He turns his attention directly to Alison. "Alison, I'd like to hear from you. Walk me through what happened from your perspective." Her head snaps up, surprise evident in her expression. Clearly she expected to be berated, not invited to speak. "Mr. Thompson," her voice catches. She takes a deep breath. "I made a terrible assumption. When I couldn't find your reservation, instead of simply helping you book a room, I judged you based on how you looked, not your race specifically." She adds quickly, "But your casual dress, the fact you only had one bag. I thought you might not be able to afford our rates, and I wanted to avoid an uncomfortable situation." She pauses. "At least, that's what I told myself. But looking back, I don't think I would have made the same assumption if you were." "If I were white," Marcus finishes for her. Alison nods miserably. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Thompson. I've never been more ashamed of myself." The room is completely silent now, the tension almost electric. "Thank you for your honesty," Marcus says, surprising everyone again. "Now, I have a question for all of you. How did we get here? What happened in Alison's training, in the culture we've created, that led to this moment?" David clears his throat. "Mr. Thompson, I take full responsibility. Clearly, our training on unconscious bias needs to be strengthened, but perhaps, Marcus acknowledges, but training alone isn't enough. We can require employees to sit through 100 workshops, but if they don't see those principles reflected in our daily operations, in our leadership, in who we hire and promote, then it's just talk." He stands up and walks to the window, looking out at the city below before turning back to face his team. But when I founded this company, I made a commitment that we would be different, that we would create spaces where everyone, guests and employees alike, feels valued and respected. Somewhere along the way, we've started to lose sight of that. Marcus returns to the table, leaning forward with intensity. Here's what I know: Alison didn't develop these attitudes in a vacuum. She's been with us for 6 months. What has she seen in that time? Who has she been working with? What behaviors have been rewarded? The department heads shift uncomfortably in their seats. But Regina speaks up. Marcus is right. This isn't about placing blame on Alison. This is about examining our systems. For instance, I'd like to know about our front desk hiring practices. I'm noticing that nearly everyone in guest-facing roles at this property fits a certain profile. But David pales slightly. We hire the most qualified candidates, MS. Washington. Eidsbyern. Do we? Marcus asks quietly. Or do we hire people who fit our preconceived notion of what a luxury hotel employee should look like? When was the last time we examined our recruitment strategies, our interview questions, our advancement criteria? The room falls silent again as the implications sink in. Marcus turns back to Alison, who looks simultaneously terrified and fascinated by the direction of the conversation. Alison, I have a question for you, and I want your complete honesty. Have you observed or experienced anything during your time here that might have reinforced the idea that certain types of people don't belong in places like this? Alison hesitates, glancing nervously around the room. You have my word that there will be no retaliation for your honesty, Marcus assures her. She swallows hard. There are comments sometimes. Not from everyone, she adds hastily. But I've heard supervisors joke about looking the part when certain guests check in. There's an unspoken understanding about which guests get upgrades, which ones get extra attention. I've been told to use my judgment about when to be flexible with policies. She pauses. And I've noticed that employees who don't fit a certain image tend to be assigned to back-of-house roles, regardless of their qualifications or experience. Several of the department heads look stricken. Others nod slowly, as if Alison is confirming what they already knew but hadn't acknowledged. Marcus absorbs this information with a calm that belies his inner turmoil. This is precisely what he feared: not isolated incidents, but a pervasive culture that contradicts everything he's tried to build. Thank you, Alison. Your honesty today has been invaluable. He stands again, commanding the room's attention. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to use this as a turning point. Regina will be leading a comprehensive review of our hiring practices, training protocols, and advancement criteria. Effective immediately. We'll be bringing in external consultants to help us identify blind spots in our culture. And we're going to establish anonymous reporting channels for both employees and guests to flag instances where we're falling short of our values. Marcus looks directly at Alison. As for you, Alison, I believe in second chances and growth. If you're willing to be part of the solution, I'd like you to join a task force we're forming to address these issues. Your perspective would be valuable. Alison's eyes widen in disbelief. You're not firing me? Would firing you solve the problem we've identified today? Marcus asks simply. No, she admits. It wouldn't. Then let's focus on solutions that will. As the meeting continues, with tasks assigned and timelines established, Marcus observes his team with new eyes. Some seem genuinely moved and motivated by the conversation. Others appear uncomfortable, perhaps seeing themselves in Alison's actions or recognizing their own complicity in the culture that enabled this situation. Either way, change has begun. And sometimes, Marcus reflects, that's all you can ask for a beginning. 6 months later, Marcus stands at the podium in the Grand Meridian's largest ballroom, addressing the entire staff of the Chicago property. The room is packed, from housekeepers to executives, all gathered for the unveiling of Thompson Hospitality Group's new initiative. 6 months ago. Marcus begins, we had what I like to call a moment of truth, an interaction that revealed we weren't fully living our values. Today, I'm proud to announce the official launch of Every Guest. But every time our renewed commitment to creating truly inclusive spaces in every Thompson property worldwide. Applause ripples through the audience. Marcus catches Regina's eye in the front row. She gives him a subtle nod of approval. This initiative isn't just about avoiding mistakes or preventing embarrassing situations, Marcus continues. It's about fundamentally transforming how we think about hospitality. It's about recognizing that true luxury isn't just about thread counts and champagne, it's about making every person who walks through our doors feel valued and respected. He gestures to his right, where Alison stands with a diverse group of employees who formed the task force that developed the initiative. I want to thank the team that has worked tirelessly to make this happen, particularly Alison Reynolds, who had the courage to turn a difficult moment into an opportunity for growth. More applause as Alison steps forward, transformed from the nervous receptionist of 6 months ago. After joining the task force, she had revealed a talent for organization and leadership that led to her promotion to training coordinator for the new initiative. When I made that mistake 6 months ago, Alison says, taking the microphone, I was sure my career was over. Instead, Mr. Thompson showed me what true leadership looks like, not just punishing mistakes, but using them as catalysts for change. Every guest, every time isn't just a slogan. It's a philosophy that's already transforming how we work. She outlines the changes implemented over the past 6 months, revamped hiring practices that emphasize diversity at all levels, comprehensive training programs focused on unconscious bias, restructured advancement paths to ensure equal opportunities, and a robust feedback system that treats guest complaints as valuable data rather than problems to be managed. When Alison finishes, Marcus returns to the podium. Change isn't easy, he acknowledges. Some of you may have been skeptical about this process, but some of you may still be, but the preliminary results speak for themselves. Behind him, a screen displays the hotel's latest performance metrics. Guest satisfaction scores up 12%, employee retention improved by 15%, and perhaps most tellingly a 19% increase in repeat bookings from diverse guest demographics. These numbers tell an important story, Marcus says. When we truly welcome everyone, when we create environments where both guests and employees can bring their full selves, we don't just do the right thing, we build a stronger business. He pauses, looking out at the sea of faces before him. My father used to tell me that the true measure of a person isn't how they act when everything's going right, but how they respond when things go wrong. The same is true for companies. 6 months ago, we got a wake-up call. Today, I'm proud of how we've answered it. As the formal presentation concludes and the staff mingles during the reception that follows, Marcus finds himself approached by an elderly gentleman who introduces himself as a regular guest. I've been staying at this hotel for 15 years, the man tells him. And I've never felt the difference in atmosphere as strongly as I have these past few months. Whatever you're doing, it's working. Marcus thanks him, touched by the unsolicited feedback. Later, as the event winds down, Marcus finds Alison helping to coordinate the cleanup efforts, directing staff with newfound confidence. You've come a long way, he observes. Alison smiles. Thanks to you, Mr. Thompson. No, he corrects her. Thanks to your own willingness to learn and grow. That's the thing about mistakes, they're only truly failures if we don't learn from them. She nods thoughtfully. I've been thinking about what you said in that first meeting, about how I didn't develop those attitudes in a vacuum. You were right. But the amazing thing is how quickly those attitudes can change when the environment changes. That's the secret of culture, Marcus agrees. It shapes us, but we also shape it. Every interaction, every decision, every policy, they all matter. As he prepares to leave, Marcus takes one last look around the ballroom. The space itself hasn't changed, same elegant decor, same crystal chandeliers, but the energy has. There's an authenticity to the interactions he observes, a warmth that transcends the practiced hospitality of luxury establishments. This, he realizes, is what his parents created at their modest bed and breakfast all those years ago, not just a place to stay, but a place to belong. And in the end, Perhaps that's the greatest luxury anyone can offer. As Marcus steps out onto the Chicago streets, the evening air crisp against his face, he pulls out his phone to make a call. Jerome? It's Marcus. I need a favor. 2 days later, Marcus stands in the lobby of the small bed and breakfast where his journey began. The Bluebird Inn has seen better days, its Victorian charm somewhat faded, its furnishings outdated, but it still operates under new ownership. A local family trying to keep it afloat in an era of chain hotels and home-sharing platforms. Marcus approaches the front desk, where a teenage girl is helping her mother with paperwork. "Excuse me," he says. "I was hoping to book a room." The girl looks up, clearly not recognizing him. "Of course, sir. How many nights?" "Just one. I used to stay here as a child, and I wanted to revisit it." The mother joins her daughter, smiling warmly. "That's lovely to hear. We've only owned the place for 3 years, but we try to maintain its character." "You're doing a wonderful job," Marcus tells her sincerely. As they complete his booking, Marcus notices photographs on the wall behind the desk, a gallery of the inn's history. Among them is a faded color photograph of a black couple standing proudly in front of the newly purchased Bluebird Inn, circa 1978. His parents, young and full of dreams. "That's quite a history on your wall," he remarks. The owner follows his gaze. "Oh yes, we've tried to preserve as much of the inn's story as possible." "Those are the Thompsons. They owned this place for nearly 20 years. But their son went on to create that big hotel chain, you know, Thompson Hospitality Group." "Is that right?" Marcus says, smiling slightly. "It is. We actually wrote to him when we bought the place, hoping he might visit someday. Never heard back, but can't blame him, must be busy running all those fancy hotels." Marcus accepts his room key, a real metal key rather than a key card, and makes a mental note to have his assistant follow up on that letter. "You never know," he tells her. "Sometimes life brings us full circle in ways we don't expect." As he climbs the familiar creaking stairs to the second floor, Marcus feels a profound sense of completion. From the Bluebird Inn to the Grand Meridian and back again, a journey not just of success, but of purpose. And isn't that what we're all searching for? Not just to rise, but to remember. Not just to succeed, but to bring others along. Not just to build empires, but to build bridges.